Suella Braverman, our Home Secretary, where to even begin? Now, I've avoided speaking about her much lately for my own mental well-being and frankly yours as well. She's a disaster, not just on my terms, but on her own terms as well. Now, she's a disaster on my terms because she's waging, in my view, an inhumane campaign against some of the most vulnerable people on the face of the earth, stripping them of their basic humanity, trying to make us scared of them, trying to make us think that they're, in her words, an invasion, like a military force invading our land, trying to scapegoat them for all the ills in society, and imposing, or attempting to impose, horrible, cruel situations on them, whether it be deporting them to Rwanda or sticking them on overcrowded ships. Now, she's a disaster on her terms because she has made stopping the boats her overriding political priority, in her own words, her dream. And she's completely and utterly failed. 1,773 migrants and refugees crossed the channel last week. Now, to be clear, her government is to blame for that situation. I don't think the vast majority of us want small boats because, in my own view, it's not a safe way to travel. But they are responsible because they shut down legal and safe routes. So we have fewer asylum claims than we did at the beginning of the century, but far, far more coming via boats because of the lack of alternatives. Anyway, what's happened now is she's completely failed on her own terms. She was always going to fail on my terms, but she's totally failed on her terms, and now she's lashing out. She's lashing out because she is a failure. So her latest ruse is to try and appeal, as ever, to the worst instincts of the public, to try and cram migrants and refugees on the Bibi Stockholm boat. That was a disaster because almost immediately it had to be evacuated because of the presence of Legionella. Now, let's just hear her, honestly. Let's just hear her on the BBC.
Fire Brigade's union are making headlines again today. They say that they have written to you expressing safety concerns. They say the barge is a death trap, potentially, and they say you won't meet them. Why not?
Well, let me be clear that I'm confident that the barge is safe. This barge has accommodated people in the past, asylum seekers, oil rig workers, and barges of this kind have been used to accommodate asylum seekers, for example, in Scotland. So I'm very confident that this barge is safe for human habitation. We followed all of the advice and protocols in anticipation of embarkation. But let's be clear about what the Fire Brigade union are doing. They are a Labour-affiliated union. They are carrying out a political attack on the government through their challenge right now. They want to stop us, just like we're dealing with the range of forces who want to stop us from stopping the boats, whether it's immigration lawyers, charities, NGOs, the Labour Party. They're all gleeful about the prospect of us not putting people on the barge of boats coming across the channel.
They would say that they're raising serious safety
attempt
concerns,
to stop us from delivering on our pledge.
They would say that they're registering severe safety concerns. Is it true, as being reported in some of the papers this morning, that you're considering tagging migrants?
Well, we've just passed our landmark legislation in the form of the Illegal Migration Act that will empower us to detain and remove illegal migrants more swiftly. And we will, of course, need to increase some of our detention capacity. We have a couple of thousand detention places already at our disposal, but we're considering a range of options, all options, to ensure that we can exert some control over those people who are arriving illegally so that we can thereafter remove them to a safe country like Rwanda.
So that sounds like tagging is one of the options that's being considered. Can we just ask us...
She really is something else, isn't she? Now, who do you trust more? Who do you trust more on the question of safety on the Bibi Stockholm? Do you trust, I don't know, firefighters or this tin pot incompetent demagogue? I think I'll go with the firefighters, actually. Her view is the firefighters, who have vast expertise on this particular issue, huge expertise, that they're conspiring with the Labour Party in order to damage the government. And I think this just really sums up what you're listening to here, which is the sound of a desperate cornered politician who knows she's failed, who knows she's going to continue to fail. So her only strategy she's got left is just to blame anyone and everyone else for her failure. NGOs, charities, lawyers, the Labour Party, anyone but Suella Braverman. You can hear more of this absurd, demagogic, these sinister forces are stopping me, there's a big conspiracy against me. Let's just have a listen to it.
If we're thwarted by the courts, if we're stopped from doing so, we'll do whatever it takes to ensure that we can stop the boats. That's a pledge that the Prime Minister has made. That's one that I have made. It's one that we are working both night and day to deliver.
It isn't working, though, is it? Last week alone, there were 1,773 migrants who crossed the Channel. Do you not think it was a mistake to make such a bold pledge at the start of the year?
It's what the British people expect of us. It's what I passionately believe is the right thing to do. And we are making progress. As I said, we've passed our landmark legislation. But let's also be clear about what we're up against. We're up against a range of forces which are intent on stopping us, whether it's immigration lawyers, charities, NGOs, many of whom have very close links with the Labour Party, operating night and day to stop us in delivering this pledge through legal challenges in the courts, through administering dodgy legal advice to illegal asylum claimants and illegal migrants, through sometimes facilitating illegal migration through their so-called charitable work. There's a range of forces that we are dealing with, including no less than the Labour Party, which is intent
Well,
on
the Labour Party
in
haven't been in
delivering
power for 13 years, so it does seem a little rich to blame them for the crossing numbers.
No plan whatsoever to stop the boats. They support free movement of people, and actually they want to facilitate illegal migration.
Well, let's get back to what the Conservative government is doing.
That last part is going to force me to defend the Labour Party, isn't it? That's how desperate things are now getting. The Labour Party want to facilitate illegal immigration, she says. I beg your pardon. What are you talking about, Suella? Where have you got that from? I mean, regardless of my objections to the Labour Party, which I think many of you have heard on multiple occasions, on what planet do you actually think they want to facilitate illegal immigration? Where's the evidence? What would be their motive for facilitating, as you call it, illegal immigration? How are they doing it in practical terms? Now, what, if anything, they're doing is failing to offer an alternative to your appalling rhetoric and policies. That's what I would charge the Labour Party with, not trying to facilitate, as you call it, illegal immigration. Look, this is all a clue about where the Conservatives are headed. Well, for defeat, firstly. But in opposition, what they're going to do is they're going to do what they're doing now, but a lot worse. They're going to wage vicious culture wars. They're going to metamorphosize even more into what the American Republicans have become, which is just a far-right, nationalist, racist, horrible anti-democratic force. That's what's going to happen. And they're going to keep using this extreme, deranged rhetoric. They're going to talk about conspiracies and you know, the Labour Party and NGOs and charities and lawyers and all the rest of it, and all these other sinister forces in British society which are conspiring to destroy the country. That's where things are headed. And it is worrying, because I think it will be destabilising. I think our democracy, which has always been a democracy with caveats, as I would put it, is headed for a rocky time, because this sort of inflammatory rhetoric is destabilising for democracy. And that's what Suella Braverman is entertaining. And I think it gives a clue about where the Tories are headed and where this country is headed to. Buckle up. Please like, subscribe, do support us on patreon.com/ownjoes84 to keep the show on the road. Listen to us on the podcast. That's easy.